The game was still playing, but I couldn't tell you the score. Hell, I couldn't even remember who was playing. I was staring at the flickering TV, a half-empty bottle of Miller in my hand, when the front door creaked open at 2:13 a.m. Emily stumbled in with her heels dangling from one hand and her red dress clinging to her like melted wax. Her hair was tangled like she'd rolled around in a stranger's bed, and her makeup had started to give up on her face the way I had a long time ago. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. She giggled when she saw me. "Oh, you're still up?" she slurred, like she was caught sneaking cookies and not walking in looking like the aftermath of a motel fire. I looked down at her legs. No underwear. No shame either. Just her standing barefoot on my living room floor like it was Tuesday. "Where's your underwear?" I asked. The words came out flat. No emotion. Not even a raised eyebrow. She blinked. For a moment, the real Emily, the one with working excuses, tried to boot up behind her hazy eyes. But all she came up with was, "I must have lost them at the club. Crazy night." She laughed again, like it was funny. That was the moment. Not when she walked in drunk. Not even when I saw her bare under that dress. It was when she laughed, like I was supposed to laugh with her. That something cold inside me clicked into place. You don't just lose your underwear. You don't just come home like that if you care what the man sitting on your couch thinks about you. And you sure as hell don't smirk your way through it if you've got nothing to hide. I stood up, tossed the remote onto the cushion beside me, and walked to the kitchen. Didn't say a word. Just needed space before I said something I couldn't take back. Behind me, she muttered something about the cab and how loud the music was. I stopped listening. I opened the fridge, grabbed another beer. The label was peeling, and my hand trembled. Not with sadness, but with the effort it took to keep everything inside. That's when I knew. I wasn't going to scream and I wasn't going to beg. I was going to figure out what the hell she had done, and then walk away like a man who'd finally had enough. She called from the hallway, "I'm gonna crash, babe. Not we. Not sorry. Just I. Like I was the roommate with better rent." "Yeah," I said. My voice was calm, clipped. "Sleep tight." She vanished down the hall, and the bedroom door clicked shut. I stood there with that beer in my hand, heart beating like a drum with a broken rhythm, wondering when I'd lost her, then realizing maybe I hadn't. Maybe she was never mine to begin with. The TV kept flickering. Someone scored. A crowd roared. But in that house, there was only silence, and the unmistakable stench of a woman who thought I'd never ask the one question that changed everything. The next morning, the sun poured through the blinds like it didn't know the world had changed. Emily was in the shower, humming some pop song like she hadn't walked through that door last night half naked with liquor on her breath and some other man's sweat probably on her skin. I stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, staring at her phone on the table. Unlocked. Careless. I'd never gone through her phone before, not once in 20 years. But something inside me said the rules were different now. The game had changed, and pretending I didn't know the score wasn't noble, it was pathetic. My hand hovered over it. For a second, I almost walked away. But then I remembered her laugh. The way she waved off my question like I was being dramatic for not accepting I lost them at the club as a real answer. No, I picked it up, opened the messages. There it was. "Jake." The first message was harmless, almost polite. But then I scrolled. Weeks of texts, then months. Photos. Him shirtless in some hotel room mirror. Her pouting into the camera, wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. Late night messages. Inside jokes. One thread where she actually said, "I hate pretending around David." Pretending. Every dinner. Every time she touched my arm. Every smile across the table while I paid for her wine and asked about her day. All of it had been a performance. I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone or punch the wall. I just stared. Scrolling further, I found the hotel receipt. Room 327. Paid with our joint card. She didn't even try to hide it. The arrogance of it made my hands shake. The messages weren't just sexual. They were intimate. The kind of conversations you only have when you're planning a life with someone else. She'd written, "I'll tell him soon. Promise. I just need to find the right moment." The right moment to destroy my life. The right moment never came. I found it myself. I put the phone down like it was poison, walked to the sink and ran my hands under cold water. My reflection in the window above the sink didn't look like me. My jaw was clenched so tight I thought I'd break a tooth. In the distance, I heard the water shut off. I dried my hands, stepped away, back to the table, picked up her phone again, not to check more, just to delete the thread from the screen and put it exactly where I found it. Let her think she was still fooling me. Let her live in her little world just a little longer. She walked into the kitchen wrapped in a towel. "Morning," she chirped, rubbing her hair dry. "Want eggs or something?" I looked her in the eye for the first time since last night. "Nah, not hungry," she smiled. "Suit yourself." Then wandered off to the bedroom to get dressed for a day I already knew was built on lies. As soon as she left for her so-called errands, I sat back down at the table. My mind wasn't spinning, it was sharpening, focused. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to end this on my terms, because now I wasn't looking for the truth. I'd already found it. That evening, the house smelled like garlic and butter. Emily was in the kitchen, humming again, stirring some pasta dish like she was a sitcom wife from the 90s and not the woman who had just been messaging another man she wanted to run away with. "Can you set the table?" she called out, cheerful. "Yeah," I said, standing from the recliner like my body had turned to stone. I moved slowly, deliberately. Forks, knives, 2 plates, 2 glasses of red wine she'd already poured. We sat across from each other, and for the first time in our marriage, there was nothing to talk about. She filled the silence, chattering about some woman from her yoga class, how she might get promoted, maybe they'd do another girls' trip soon. I nodded occasionally, but I didn't hear a word. I watched her lips move and thought about how many times she'd kissed me after being with him. How many nights I'd laid beside her thinking we were okay, while she scrolled through texts with someone named Jake, who apparently made her feel seen. She twirled her fork and glanced up. "You're quiet tonight." I took a sip of wine. "Just tired." She nodded. "Long week, huh?" "You have no idea." After dinner, I cleaned the plates. She took a shower. I watched the game but couldn't focus. I kept picturing her in that towel again, just like this morning, thinking she'd fooled me, thinking I was still her safe place to land while she danced on the edge of betrayal with someone who wasn't even man enough to call me by name in those texts. When she came out of the bathroom, she crawled into bed like nothing was wrong, wearing that old college t-shirt of mine like it still meant something. She kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch. I didn't respond either. "Night, babe," she whispered. "Good night," I said. She turned out like a light in 5 minutes. But I lay there wide awake, listening to her breathe, trying to remember if I'd missed it. Any of it. The signs. The coldness. The phone turned upside down on the table. The sudden urge to go out dancing when she'd never cared for clubs before. The new underwear that vanished from the laundry rotation. It wasn't the sex that killed me. It was the act. The theater. The pretending. The woman beside me wasn't Emily anymore. Not the one I'd married. Not the one I'd built a life with. This was someone new. A stranger who'd hijacked her face and voice and memories. I turned toward the window, the moonlight spilling across the floor, and I felt it. Not rage, not sadness. Just distance. A kind of cold, permanent distance you can't measure on a map or fix with a talk. The kind that hollows you out and leaves a shell behind. Polite enough to wash dishes, quiet enough to say goodnight, but already halfway gone. And right there, in that bed I used to call home, I made the decision. I wasn't going to fight her for the truth. I already had it. I wasn't going to confront her or scream or play detective anymore. I was going to vanish from her life without a sound, and let the silence speak louder than any words ever could. I didn't start packing right away. That would have been too loud. Instead, I started trimming the fat from my life. Digitally, emotionally, financially. First, I opened a new bank account under a business name I'd shelved years ago. Made small deposits, transferred a few hundred at a time. Nothing big enough to flag suspicion. Just enough to start cutting the financial cord, thread by thread. Next came the storage unit. a small one on the outskirts of town. I told Emily I needed space for tools. She barely blinked. That's the kind of marriage we had now. One where you could start vanishing right in front of her and she'd smile over her coffee like nothing was happening. In the evenings, I sorted through my closet. Shirts that still fit, boots that had been broken in by real work, the jacket my dad gave me before he passed. I took only what mattered, piece by piece, slipping them into a duffel bag stashed in the truck. There was no anger in it, just clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you stop explaining things to people who already decided they don't have to care. She was still texting Jake. I didn't look often, but enough to know he hadn't disappeared. Enough to know she was still planning something in that fantasy world of hers, where real men like me just conveniently evaporate so their soft little dreams can float in. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of drama. She wasn't going to get a crying scene, a screaming match, or even a slammed door. That's what people like her feed on. Noise. So I gave her silence. I rented a one-bedroom apartment 2 states over, paid 3 months in advance. I told the landlord I didn't like nosy neighbors. He just nodded, handed me the keys. It was nothing fancy. Concrete floors, thin walls, a view of a parking lot. But it was mine. Clean slate. No ghosts. At home, I started fading out. I stopped initiating conversations. I let her talk about yoga, Jake, whatever nonsense she thought I didn't see. I played the part. Made dinner, paid bills, kissed her cheek. Not because I loved her anymore. Because I wanted my exit to be surgical. Clean. No blood. There were moments when the anger crept in. Like when I saw the necklace I gave her tangled in her makeup bag, unused, while the one Jake bought her in that text photo sat proudly on her neck. Or when I heard her fake laugh on a call and remembered when it used to be real, used to be just for me. But I swallowed the heat. Anger was fuel, not fire. It wasn't going to burn me, it was going to move me. She never noticed a thing. Not the missing tools. Not the changed passwords. Not the extra key on my ring that didn't match any door in our house. And that told me everything I needed to know. She didn't see me anymore. And when someone stops seeing you, you don't scream to be noticed. You disappear, so when they finally look up, it's too damn late. It was a Thursday. She had a wine night with her friends. Came home a little buzzed, humming the same damn song she'd been obsessed with lately. I pretended to be asleep while she got ready for bed. Slipped under the covers without so much as brushing my arm. I lay there quietly, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, counting seconds, listening to her breath. At 3:57 a.m., I got up. No alarm, no rush, just movement, silent, focused, final. I dressed in the bathroom. The door cracked just enough to let in hallway light. Jeans, boots, flannel, my dad's old watch. The same clothes I wore when I laid the foundation for this house. Seemed fitting. The bags were already in the truck. Everything I needed fit in a single tarp-covered load. Tools, books, a few photos, clothes. The rest, the dishes, the bed, the framed pictures of us on vacations that now felt like someone else's life. I left. I stood at the kitchen counter and scribbled 5 words onto a piece of paper. Simple. Clean. Emily, I can't do this anymore. Don't try to find me. David. I placed it under her favorite coffee mug. The one with the chip on the handle she refused to throw out. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming. The same house I'd helped build, paint, wire, insulate. The same backyard I'd mowed for 16 summers straight. The same front porch where we slow danced one night under Christmas lights, when we still believed in forever. I didn't linger. I walked out the front door and pulled it shut behind me, gentle but certain. No slam, just a click. The truck started on the first try. The sound seemed loud in the still air, but she didn't stir. Or maybe she did and chose not to come to the window. Maybe she thought I was heading to work early. She wouldn't know until the morning. Wouldn't feel the absence until she reached for that mug and found the truth sitting underneath it, staring her in the face without apology. The road out of town was empty. Streetlights passed overhead like slow blinks. I didn't turn on the radio, didn't check my phone. I just drove with both hands on the wheel, the windows down, the air cutting cold across my face. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not relief, but peace, the kind that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. I didn't look back, didn't glance in the rearview mirror once, because there was nothing back there worth seeing. Emily didn't call until 6:48 a.m. By then, I was already over the state line, sipping diner coffee out of a chipped mug, watching trucks roll past the window like nothing in the world had changed. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring. She called again and again. 5 calls in 10 minutes. Then came the texts. Where are you? David, are you okay? Did something happen? This isn't funny. I watched the screen without touching it. That phone had rung 100 times in our marriage, bank calls, birthdays, her mother asking about recipes. But this was the first time her tone cracked. I pictured her waking up, stumbling into the kitchen, reaching for that mug, and finding my note instead. I didn't need to be there to see the panic crawl across her face. I've seen enough regret on the job. When men realize too late the thing they built is falling apart and they never reinforce the foundation. Only this time I wasn't the one falling. By noon, the messages turned frantic. Where did you go? Please just talk to me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we fix this? Fix this? The woman who'd laughed off her missing underwear. The woman who lay in bed beside me texting another man while I folded laundry and planned our anniversary dinner now wanted to fix it? I didn't respond. That night, I turned the phone off for the first time in years. When I turned it back on the next day, I had voicemails from people I hadn't heard from in months. Her friends, her mother, even her brother. One message stood out. Her mother's voice was calm, brittle. David, I don't know what happened, but she's not doing well. I don't blame you for leaving. I just hope she learned something from it. That one almost made me respond. Almost. A week passed. Jake stopped answering her from what I could piece together. Probably didn't sign up for the fallout. He was the kind of man who disappears when the fun turns into cleanup. The kind who enjoys breaking things but leaves others to sweep the pieces. Her friends? Gone. People choose sides when the truth gets loud, and nothing screams like a woman left without warning. By the second week, she sent a video. Tears, mascara, some sad song playing faintly in the background. I miss you. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I didn't think you'd ever leave me. I thought you loved me too much to walk away. That was the problem. She thought love was a leash. She never expected me to let go of it and keep walking. I didn't reply, not to punish her, not to play games, but because I had nothing left to say. And she was finally living in the silence I'd endured for years. She just never noticed until it was her turn to feel it. The apartment was small, just a bedroom, a kitchen with creaky cabinets, and a balcony that overlooked the kind of street where nobody asked questions. The kind of place where men rebuilt their lives quietly, one piece at a time. I didn't decorate, didn't hang pictures or buy throw pillows. I bought what I needed. A bed, a table, a second-hand couch that smelled like someone else's dog, but was still better than sharing anything with her memory. For the first few days, I barely slept. Not because I missed her, but because I was unlearning habits, waiting for footsteps down the hall, for a voice to ask where the car keys were, for the door to creak open at 2 a.m. and spill perfume and lie into my peace. But the silence grew on me. It wasn't empty, it was clean. It was mine. I got a job at a fabrication shop 15 minutes away. Hard work, decent pay, no questions asked. I liked that. Welding doesn't care about heartbreak. Steel doesn't lie to your face and kiss you goodnight. It just bends to fire and holds when it cools. Honest work. Solid. I spent weekends fishing alone, letting the stillness wash off the noise. I'd sit on a plastic chair by the lake with a thermos of black coffee and stare at the water like it owed me answers. It never spoke, but it helped. The worst days were the ones when something would remind me of her. Her laugh playing in a passing song, a woman with the same perfume walking past me at the grocery store, the way someone said my name in a familiar tone. But I didn't run from those moments. I let them sting, then I let them pass. That was the difference between grief and weakness. One you carry, the other carries you. I started eating better, sleeping longer, reading more. I didn't go out much, not for a while. But one day, I found a diner off Route 9 where they served bacon crisp and coffee strong. The waitress, maybe mid-40s, called me Han and had a voice like gravel and honey. I liked that. Her name was Kate. We talked about the weather, about old cars, about how bad the local football team was. Nothing deep, nothing dangerous, just good. One night, she asked if I had a wife. I told her I used to. She didn't press. She just poured me another cup and said, "Her loss." I didn't smile, but I looked her in the eye and nodded. "Yeah," I said. "It was." And I meant it. For the first time in a long time, I believed it. It had been just over 6 months when it happened. I was sitting in the corner booth of that same Route 9 diner, sipping black coffee and flipping through the classifieds. No reason, just habit. When the bell over the door jingled and she walked in. Emily. Hair shorter, eyes tired, thinner like the chaos had trimmed her down to bones and apology. She scanned the room and locked eyes with me. For a moment, neither of us moved. She stepped toward the booth, slow like she was approaching a grave. "David," she said, her voice almost a whisper. I nodded, not smiling. "Emily." She looked around, clutching her purse like it was the only solid thing in her life. "Can I sit?" I gestured to the seat across from me. "Up to you." She sat like she hadn't sat across from me in years, like she didn't belong there, and she knew it. "You look good," she said, voice cracking. I sipped my coffee. "You don't." That hit her. She dropped her gaze, folding her hands in her lap like a scolded child. "I deserved that," she said. Silence settled between us. She took a deep breath. "I've been in therapy. I lost most of my friends. My mom barely speaks to me now. Jake disappeared, just vanished. I guess he was never really there." I didn't respond, just let her talk. She fidgeted. I need to say I'm sorry. I was selfish. I was cruel. I thought I'd always have you, no matter how I treated you. I thought your silence meant weakness." I met her eyes, steady. "No, it meant I was done talking." She swallowed hard. "I don't expect anything from you. I just needed to say it. Out loud." I nodded slowly. "All right, you said it." Her lip trembled, but she held it in. "I miss you," she said finally. "Every day." I leaned back in the booth, fingers wrapped around my mug. "You miss the man who paid the bills, made the meals, kept the peace. You don't miss me. You miss what I did for you." She flinched. "You're right," she said, "but I do miss your heart. And I know I don't deserve to." The bell over the door rang again. Kate walked in, nodded at me from the counter, and went to grab her apron. I didn't glance away from Emily. "I've moved on," I said, not to wound her, just to speak the truth. She nodded. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. "I figured. You'll be all right," I said. "You just won't be mine." Emily stood slowly. Her shoulders slumped like she was carrying a decade of regret. "Goodbye, David." "Goodbye, Emily." She turned and walked out of the diner and out of my life. This time for good. I watched her go without a twinge of regret. Closure isn't about getting even. It's about getting clear. And I was finally clear. The apartment still smells like sawdust and old flannel, but it feels like home now. My toolbox sat by the door, boots lined up neatly beside it. There was a photo of my dad on the shelf, next to a small framed snapshot of the lake I liked to fish at. No pictures of Emily. No empty spaces waiting to be filled. Just the life I built with calloused hands and a clear mind. Some evenings, I'd sit on the balcony with a glass of whiskey, watching the streetlights flicker on. Kids rode by on bikes. A neighbor's dog barked in the distance. Life kept happening, loud, messy, and beautiful in its own stubborn way. I was seeing someone now. Not serious. Not yet. Her name was Kate. She didn't try to fix me or ask about scars. She just showed up. Brought pie sometimes. Laughed at my dry jokes. It was easy in the way peace should be earned, not begged for. The pain? Still there, in pieces. Some nights I'd hear a song or smell her old perfume in a crowd and feel something twist. But it didn't rule me anymore. The bitterness had burned off. What was left was steel, quiet, tempered, and forged in fire. I wasn't the same man who sat in that living room, asking, "Where's your underwear?" Like the answer would fix something. That man was broken open. This one was built back better, with truth in his gut and pride in his spine. Emily never reached out again. She knew better, and I never looked her up. Not out of hate, out of peace. Because real strength isn't in how loud you leave. It's in how well you live after. I poured another glass and leaned back in my chair, eyes on the city lights blinking against the dusk. I didn't have it all figured out, but I had myself, and that was enough.